Good morning and welcome. Patriot News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Wednesday. Back here. Had to take a day off. Yesterday was a little bit under the weather. It's that time of year, right? The temperature changes. Had some rain. It rained all day yesterday. My youngest son, he lives in San Diego, goes to the University of San Diego, and record amount of rain fell there. He was sending us pictures. Streets were flooded. I guess the drought is over, apparently. I don't know. A lot of snow up in Flagstaff. I know this. Anytime it rains in Arizona, we are always happy about it. And it was just constant yesterday. It wasn't like a downpour, but just steady, good amount of rain. I'm hoping that means the reservoirs will hopefully be all filled up, the Colorado River, and the farmers will have water. Everybody can have water. And we can survive at least another year out there. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And, Jason, not a lot of economic news. The big numbers come out tomorrow and Friday. We got GDP tomorrow, which I'm anticipating a fairly decent number. I know the holiday season, it wasn't spectacular, but people borrowed a lot of money. There was definitely that credit card balances, new all-time record highs, and a lot of this buy now, pay later stuff, that kind of a new thing helping. So I'm anticipating a fairly decent GDP number, somewhere, 2.5%. And then, obviously it'll be a step down from third quarter, but still decent enough. And then we'll get that inflation data on Friday. And I think that'll tell us a lot. I think obviously everybody, wants that inflation data number to be lower. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We never said we were going into a flash crash anytime this year. We've been talking about how this is a slow moving, bad situation. So yeah, we're slowly but surely, right, Joe? So yeah, what was the GDP for the last quarter was some insanely high number, and so this one's going to be a little less than that.
5%, something like that. And of course, most of that was the federal government spending and. Let's not forget war. Listen, war's good for GDP, right? I mean, right now, that's kind of the big holdup, right? The government, the Biden administration, they want more money, right? More war spending. It really is kind of hard to understand because they're saying for 2024, they're hoping that GDP, 1.5%. With a budget deficit, if there's no war funding, will be somewhere approaching $2.5 trillion. If there is war funding, right now we're going to be over $2.5 trillion, and even then you're saying only 1.5%. It really is. It's insanity, and I think this is kind of what everybody understands. It's absolute insanity. The government spending's insane. The Federal Reserve, listen, they're in a corner. Whether they want to admit it or not, Wall Street wants to admit it or not, there's no good outcome here. There really, really isn't. Listen, the reverse repo is going to be out of money here. We're less than six weeks? Give or take, they're out of money. They're going to have to stop quantitative tightening. Remember, the Treasury, they need to restock the checkbook. I just don't know where all of this money's going to come from. I mean, look at today, China today. Huge stimulus. They're in free fall. Their housing market is already crashed. Their stock market is crashing. And it just makes sense, right? All over the world, everybody's got their own unique problem.
And China will unapologetically just buy everything up because the government feels they own everything anyway. They allow the capitalist system to exist with permission. So if whatever rules the capitalists in China can't survive on, they will fail, and China will buy it. with their central bank, and then they'll move on until some poor schmucks can get a business model again in China and make money again. And that's what the Federal Reserve wants for America. We're heading for that, serfdom. And just keep watching China. These problems in China, Joe, are a very big reflection of our future.
Yeah, and I don't know. We did have crude inventories. I want to throw this one out because of all of the bad weather in the Midwest and the South. Really big draws, and a lot of production went offline. But I mean, you're talking about 7 to 9 million barrels down. Cushing, Oklahoma, down millions of barrels. I'm hoping for a big rebound in that one. So, that piece of economic data today, I'm going to one-off that. Crude is still mid-70s, which it really isn't terrible. Winter months is when crude is the lowest, and we're seeing that play out. It'll be interesting as we get, we talk a lot about the end of March kind of being an interesting time for the markets. That's also when you start to see crude start rallying. So it'll be interesting to see where crude gets this spring heading into summer. If they can keep it below $80, $85, I would call that a win. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that's another one of these factors. Gas prices have been falling. That comes to an end in the next 6 weeks as well. So just one more thing, right? Let's throw another log out there. One more thing to worry about. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason here on this Hump Day Wednesday. A quick look at the markets. Dow's up 90. This is Netflix. Huge number by Netflix, right? This was when they cracked down on all those shared accounts. A big number by Netflix. Of course, one of the 8 stocks, right? I think Microsoft hit $3 trillion in valuation. Man, we have just lost our minds out there. But the Dow up 90, the S&P up 27, the NASDAQ up 130, gold's down 8, 2017. Silver's up almost 50 cents, $22.90. The 10-year note unchanged today at 414. Crude oil, like I said, higher, up $1, 75.30. The dollar is lower today, but being diversified, it really is going to be really, really important as we get closer and closer to March, and then what happens the rest of the year remains to be seen. But that's why we keep talking about our friends over at Refi. Something not correlated to Wall Street. It's like the same, you buy your gold and silver. Same thing, right? Hey, now you're buying gold and silver. It's a hedge. You're diversifying against the dollar, right? Because, it's not, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out we can't be spending $2, $3, $4, $5 trillion a year more than what we're producing. It just doesn't work. Eventually, you run out of money, and that's kind of what we've been talking about. But another way to diversify out of equities, check out Refi, up to 10.25% return. It's fixed. You can turn your income on. You can turn it off. There's no penalties, no fees. You know what? Even if you need your money back early, this is how great they are. You get all of your principal back, and now, heck, they're going to even let you keep some of that interest as well. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. Call them at 888-YREFI24. Remember, you got to have $50,000. That is the minimum. That is not their rule. That is the government's rule. You got to have a minimum of $50,000. You can use an existing IRA. Some of you can use a 401k. So 888-YREFI24. Now, we talked about data coming. Inflation's coming Friday. And I want to let's just forget about how bad inflation has been for the last couple of years. Remember before that, from 2010 to at least 2020, remember what they told us. Let's not forget. There is no inflation. Oh my gosh, we just can't, if we could just get inflation to be 2%. Right? Remember, inflation, it was coming in at like 1.4, 1.6, 1.3, 1.8, and they're like, man, we just can't seem to do it. Remember, rates were 0, and they swore to us that there wasn't any inflation. Well, when I was home under the weather, laying in my bed, surfing around the internet, I stumbled upon this lady. She had done a TikTok. Now, I wasn't on TikTok, but somebody else reported her TikTok where she was moving. And apparently she was just, doing what you do when you move. Cleaning stuff out, right? Getting rid of stuff you don't need. Lo and behold, she finds a receipt from Taco Bell. Okay? It's 12 years old. So, a receipt from Taco Bell from 2012. And she said she had bought 2 beefy 5-layer burritos. She got 2 of them for $2.59. I mean, I remember Taco Bell when I was growing up. It was the cheapest place to go. A high school kid, you had $2 or $3. You went to Taco Bell, and you had 4, 5, 6 tacos. I mean, it was so easy. Fast forward to today. Like I said, we've had some inflation, allegedly. Now the lady is saying, hey, there's nothing at Taco Bell that you can get for $2.59, right? There's only a couple things. I think there's only one burrito that you can get at Taco Bell, and that's the burrito that doesn't have any meat in it, right? Now you can have a bean and cheese, right, maybe. Now, one beefy 5-layer burrito, $3.69. So what used to be $2.59 is now $7.38. 12 years later, according to just basic high school. This is probably not even high school, elementary math here. Taco Bell is saying, hey, if you annualize that over 12 years, Jason, they've had 15% inflation every year for the last 12 years at Taco Bell. Nowhere close. I mean, let's face it, the high watermark that the Fed would even admit to was 9%, and that was only for a month, right? It was 9% for like a month. I mean, I think we can count on one hand how many times over the 12 years that they said inflation was even 5%. But you go back and you pull these receipts out from 10, 12, 15 years ago, and it paints a much different picture.
That's right. And gold in 2012 was kind of on its way down to about that $1,200 range where it would kind of sit a little lower, a little higher, depending on the year and the month. And now gold spot is sitting above 2,000. So gold did exactly what it was supposed to do in that same time frame that you're talking. Yes, gold had that spike. It was overbought in some ways in 2011 and spiked up to 1,900. But you can't count the 1980 silver spike either as a serious price in silver because it got overbought. But if you look at that average price where it leveled off around $1,200, what do we got? $2,020 on gold today, whatever it is, Joe. So there you have it. Gold doing its job while Taco Bell is charging more because that's the job of the business, to raise the prices when costs go up.
Yeah, and it's just, and again, it's only one example, right? It's only one example, but it's, we say this all the time. You know that these inflation numbers don't actually track inflation, right? It's a game. They've sat in a conference room, and this is kind of, the classic, the wolf guards the hen house. Not only do they have all of the stock cheering channels, because that's what they are, right? Let's face it. When you turn on Fox or CNBC, right, they're stocks are great, and listen, they are. I don't disagree. You got to have, because of how they set it up, you have to have it, right? Because they don't give you a pension anymore. So if you want any shot, and this is the sad part. Why do I say you have to have one? Because you know what? And if you don't, when you go to retire, right, you're not going to have enough money. I mean, that's just the realities of it all. And it shouldn't have to be that way, right? If a beefy 5-layer burrito was $1.29, right? Well, maybe I don't need to have that much money anymore. Well, now it's $3.59. Well, you know what? I got to have more money, right? And this is what they have done. And in order to pull it off, they have to trick us. They got to trick us. And long ago, they stopped tracking. Matter of fact, John Williams, Shadow Stats. If you ever want to check out, and I'll give you a way to fact check me. John Williams, over at Shadow Stats, uses the inflation numbers from the 70s and 80s before they changed it. And you don't hear that. You hear it from me, and I tell this story try to tell it at least once or twice a year. Alan Greenspan, part of his brilliance, let's call it what it is. It was brilliant. Hey, guys, we're starting to really print a lot of money. The debt was $1 trillion, and then it was $2 trillion, and then it was $3 trillion. And we gotta come up with a way where we can print a lot of money and have it not be inflationary. That's what they had to come up with. Because what is inflation? Inflation isn't rising prices. That's the effect of it. But inflation is printing money out of thin air. That's what causes inflation. Ask any good farmer. Right? You produce too much of something, what happens? Well, you got to have more of it, right? Because you're going to get less money for it. Well, it works the opposite. You print more dollars the more dollars you need to buy things. And that's kind of what we're in. So they came up with a bunch of different ways to make inflation seem less. One of the best ways was, when one item gets real expensive, we'll just say the consumer will stop buying that item and will buy a different item that's not as expensive. So let's find something where inflation hasn't gone up that much and use that instead. And that's what they did. And the media was sure, right? Why wouldn't Wall Street like that? Wall Street would love that. Yes, right? Because that'll allow what? Hey, they can print even more money. When does Wall Street do really well? When they print the most amount of money. Then they also decided, you know what's annoying? It's not fair that this lady comes up with this receipt from all of these years ago. And look how little I paid. So every year, they just get rid of a year. Right? So every year that goes by, you know what? Let's just, as an example, let's just stop counting. We'll take the price of ground beef from 2015 instead of the price from 2020 because, Jason, that'll just look better. So they really only go back. I want to say, I don't know. I want to say it's 10 years, it may be 15, something like that. But every year, they raise the year of the base in order to make it look better than what it really is. And this is how, when you have a Taco Bell receipt for a beefy 5-layer burrito, where in 12 years, it's gone up 185%, almost 200% in a 12-year period. And yet, for most of that 12 years, they were able to tell us that inflation wasn't high enough. Jason, that's how they do it.
Yeah, that's gonna be a theme coming up in the months and years to come, because inflating their way out of this problem is, I think, going to be their end goal. And so they're going to be talking about how the inflation isn't so bad. And a lot of times when you inflate your way out, you spend your way out. So the government's going to be well aware of spend. I think, talk about the military budget, why they're screaming so loud for that, because that's a great way to spend and inflate your way, in theory, to kick the can down the road a little bit further, Joe.
Yeah, plus all that military spending, almost every state gets some kind of benefit, right, from that. They got all that stuff spread out everywhere. When we get back, how many companies may be in danger? We'll talk about that next. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Wednesday. $10 Liberties, $1,095. You buy 10 or more, $1,085. Silver Dimes. Last day here on Silver Dimes at $90 a roll. Silver up 40 cents today. Matter of fact, I was off yesterday, up about 40 cents yesterday. So 80 cents higher on silver over the last 2 days. Rolls of Silver Dimes at $90 a roll. $10 Liberties. Those are the older 1866 to 1907 $10 Liberties half ounce, 1 through 9, $1,095, 10 or more, $1,085 at 800-951-0592. And Jason, a lot of reports breaking about, we know commercial real estate and we know the problems there, right? These all of these loans, especially the bigger companies, they're set up pretty much as interest onlys with balloon payments. And then when the balloon payment comes due, they refinance. And how it's supposed to work is, the building's supposed to be worth more when we go to refinance. So everything's wonderful. And of course, that hasn't happened. Matter of fact, now the buildings are worth like half, in some places 70, 80% less, and they're empty on top of it, which is going to cause these big bankruptcies, and which we've been seeing them. That's, like Jason said, slow moving. Now business has got the same thing. The latest report, there's a report out of the UK. In just the UK alone, 47,000 companies are going to go out of business because they're not going to be able to refinance. And of course, that's going to be a big problem here as well. And this is why, another reason why they want these rates to go down, because one way to help people be able to refinance is get those rates back down. It's going to be interesting how quickly they're going to be able to react to this, but it's not stopping. What's not stopping? The debts aren't stopping. The money printing isn't stopping. And their desire for their next solution isn't stopping. Right? The central bank digital currencies, and you got to be looking everywhere. But the latest out of the Bank of International Settlements. And the Bank of International Settlements, this is kind of a quasi, what we call, it's the central bank for central banks. That's kind of how they label the Bank of International Settlements. And one of the things that they say, and it's right out in the open, they don't even make any bones about what they're trying to do. They're looking at privacy-enhancing technologies that can be used in a retail service system for central bank digital currency. So again, like I said, what do they mean by retail? Well, we already got the wholesale side. That's already, FedNow's already up and running, right? That's behind the scenes, payments from one government to another, or from one government to a major corporation, or a major corporation to another major corporation, right? That's already happening. Now, this is for when we start buying things. And this is what they're doing. It's called Project Arum. And it's based, they're running this, it's just interesting to me, out of their center in Hong Kong. Of course, obviously, China, much farther down the road with the digital currency. According to the head of the Bank of International Settlements on a seminar on Monday, said that they are researching the project, collaborating with local financial regulators, and academics, right? Got to get the academics involved. The project, which was first launched in 2021 to explore the front and back end of the multi-use central bank digital currency, is now ready to enter its new phase, which is the investigation into privacy into retail payments. And Jason, this is kind of the big thing, right? Everybody knows that we're going to lose privacy when this central bank digital currency rollout happens. Yet they're doing all these reports to try to convince us otherwise. Oh, don't worry, right? We're going to do this and we're going to do that, and we're going to put this safeguard in and that safeguard in. All of those safeguards are well and good until they decide, you know what? Yeah, we're getting rid of that safeguard.
Yeah, how about that, right? Yeah, and that's always the way it is, isn't it, Joe? Because when it comes to the Federal Reserve or the government especially, you can change the rules whenever you want. Any organization supported by the government, you can change the rules at any time. That's why we're going to have digital currency sometime in the future, because they're just going to change the money. How many times have they changed the money, right, Joe? It was gold. No, it's not going to be gold. Well, there's still silver. No, there ain't going to be silver. You know, well, it's linked to gold still. No, not it's 1971. We're gonna delink that now. You know, how many times, right, Joe? That's one of the reasons gold is so great. They can change the rules all they want, right, Joe? Change the rules all you want, you're still holding an ounce of gold, right? And the rest of the world doesn't always, you know, even though I say the world governments are playing in tandem for the most part, their financial systems. These countries don't always play in tandem with how they operate, and so gold is good in any country of the world, Joe, and is always going to be because of how much gold there is per person walking around on the face of the earth.
You know, there was a sentence in there that caught my eye. And again, this was a quote from the head of the Bank of International Settlements. Central banks are actively examining technologies to help deliver on their mandates. So obviously the key word there is deliver on their mandates, and they're looking at what central bank digital. Jason, when I read something like that, it sounds like to me, listen, it's already been decided, right? The central bank digital currencies are coming, and it's just going to be, it's part of the mandate, and we're looking at these technologies to try to give the illusion that people won't be giving up their privacy.
Correct. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Digital currencies, if that is mandated and the physical money actually is completely taken up, you know, taken out of the system, there's just no end to the amount of bad things that can happen to you financially when that day happens. And I think there is going to be a day where they at least attempt it. Don't know if it'll be successful, but it's going to be a dark day, Joe. It's happening right in front of us. It's happening.
Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Wednesday. Rolls of silver dimes, final day at $90 a roll. Silver's up about 80 cents here in the last 2 days. And then on the gold side, $10 liberties. 1 through 9, 1,095, 10 or more, 1,085 at 800-951-0592. If you go out to allamericangold.com today, there's an article about not taking cash. No cash accepted. Bad news for millions of Americans. And then it goes into, it's actually kind of an interesting puff piece for a digital currency. Because the article in there goes, oh, it's just so unfair. We got all these unbanked people. According to the reporter, there's 6 million Americans that are unbanked. And globally, there's over 1 billion people that are unbanked, as they like to call it. See, it's just not fair. If you don't take care, how can they? They don't have a bank account. They don't have a debit card. They don't have a credit card. So, in order to have equality, Jason, we're going to need a central bank digital currency, because now these people, hey, listen, they've bounced so many checks. They've defrauded banks so many times. They don't have any income, whatever it may be. They can't open a bank account. Listen, banks love money. They do. And there's a reason why they don't let somebody open an account. But now that's unfair, because with a central bank digital currency, you don't really have the need for a traditional bank account goes away. You just have an account at the Federal Reserve. That's it. Simple. Right? Doesn't matter who you are. Right? Just electronic credits will magically show up in your accounts. So it's kind of, I'll use healthcare. Remember the nonsense that they told us about healthcare? Do you remember? I wish we could go back and just play all the lies that they told us. I remember, outside of, you can keep your doctor, right? It's going to be less expensive. Yeah, somehow it's going to cost less. Right? Remember, it's going to just be less because look at how many young people don't have insurance, and now they'll have it. It'll make up for all the people that, listen, insurance companies, health insurance companies, listen, nobody likes them. I get it. But they throw people out for a reason, right? Hey, you cost too much money, right? You're out, right? We're not covering you anymore. And look at what the cost has done. I think I could have lived with double. Right now, I would throw a party if it was only triple. Right? My insurance, listen, we have one less. Joey's not even on my insurance. I have less people on it, and we're talking about, it's outrageous. It's the second big, outside of my mortgage, my health care premium is the second biggest expense I have. This is just like that. Well, you see, we got these people that don't have insurance. Well, you see, we got these people that don't have bank accounts. And look at all these businesses that don't take cash, right? We've got to do something, Jason. This is going to be another disaster for all of us in the name of equality.
Yeah, as you were talking, I don't know this term. There's this term that just came into my head. We all know that we all heard college loan forgiveness, right? Because everybody's going to be banked, so to speak, if there's no cash. If they do take cash, or they just charge, hey, every time you use cash, 25% or something ridiculous, so everybody runs from it. But why do I get this term in my head? Digital dollar forgiveness. Because with a digital dollar, I'll bet they'll let you overspend it. Why do I get the feeling? Well, we'll let them go on credit, and then suddenly people that don't overspend it. Well, there's a fee here. We gotta keep this digital dollar working right, and to keep the whole money system in balance right, there's a little fee here, and then that fee is going to go to the digital dollar, forgiveness program. Why do I get the feeling? Because we are a socialist country. How socialist is that? Isn't that just nice and socialist? Rob from the rich, give to the poor, so to speak, and you're not really robbing from the rich because the rich won't be dealing in this stuff. They'll just be robbing from the middle class, flattening it out. And as far as insurance, Joe, I talked about how my homeowner's insurance went up. I said 40%, but I think it's more than that. I think it's like 66% because it went from $1,500 to $2,500. I got a letter in the mail. I haven't called them yet, but the the home insurance company sent me another letter. And I don't know what part of the policy it is, but you're charged at 125% at something that's on the policy. That's going to be moved to 150%. So be ready for that. I'm like, this is the last policy. They just rose it. It's like insurance. I think insurance is a clear indication of what the price of everything is going to be because the insurance companies don't want to fail. Right, Joe? They definitely don't want to fail this time around.
Yeah, they don't want a repeat of AIG, right? They absolutely don't. Get ready, and those are premiums, right? Like I said, they just chew up so much more of that money, and it's constant. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. $10 liberties, 1 through 9, $1,095, 10 or more, $1,085, rolls of silver dimes, final day, $90 a roll at 800-951-0592. And Donald Trump wins New Hampshire yesterday, I thought pretty comfortably, but if this poll is to be believed, we're going to have a problem. According to Fox, now listen, Trump's got the nominee. He's the nominee. Nikki Haley, this is how bad of a candidate Nikki Haley is. She's not even going to win her home state, which is South Carolina, right? She's not even going to win there, right? When you can't even win the state you're from, kind of probably tells you all you need to know. But according to Fox, 35% of Republicans say they will not vote for Donald Trump. I don't know. I don't know if I can handle 4 more years of Joe Biden, Jason. I don't. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they're saying today.
I was talking on the air briefly yesterday on the Half Empty Cup of Joe. It doesn't matter if it's Trump 92% of the delegates and 8% Nikki Haley or whatever towards the end, right? There's still a convention, and you've heard me talk about this, but check this out. Here's the case where Nikki Haley becomes president. How about this? Hey, Bernie Sanders won that primary. Didn't he win those primaries against Hillary Clinton? Wasn't he the winner? And they had the Democrat Party. They decided with Hillary Clinton as our ticket. And this time around, it would be, can you imagine the emergency? I don't think this is going to happen, but it's possible. You get to the convention. We were talking yesterday, what if Trump got arrested? What if Trump got convicted of some crime or something, giving the delegates pause to change their vote from Trump to Nikki Haley? Now she's the nominee for the Republican Party just because she hung around the whole way, which I don't think this will happen, but it's a possibility. Trump goes third party. Trump comes in second place because the Democrats are going to vote for Biden. But if Biden doesn't get 50% of the delegates, it goes to a vote of Congress. And then Congress, Republican dominated, gets to vote for the president, which means they could vote Nikki Haley in as president of the United States. 2024. This is how many possibilities are. People don't realize it's not as simple as Biden and Trump. Things can go very, very sideways very quickly, depending on what happens. We know Trump's dealing with legal stuff, whether he should be or not. This story can be shaped in any fashion. 2024 they're gonna use this for all it's worth when economic chaos starts to unravel here, Joe.
I think it's just the 2024. I think is going to be a year for chaos. That's kind of in a lot of different areas. Obviously, politics. We don't talk a lot of politics on this show, and nor will we. But it's a huge factor when we sit here and we start kind of speculating what could happen in the gold and silver markets. This thing with Trump, the trust in government continues to evaporate, and I think it would be very chaotic. Let's hope it doesn't get to that. But again, we'll have to wait and see. It's kind of interesting. Nikki Haley should drop out. She's not dropping out. There's a reason. Patriot Radio News Hour. Listen, God bless everybody. Listen, Jason and I, we're coming right back with the Half Empty Cup.